Hey guys, we're back with more Legion Fall content. Here we are in front of Odyn. This is the class hall part of it, because this goes on as well. I'm kind of including it in there. I've been watching you, Miro. Time and again, you've led the Valajar to war with your weapon held high. Time and again, the halls of Valhalla have thundered with the cheers of your victory. And now that the enhancements to the Forge have been completed, it is time that your weapon's true potential be unleashed. Meet me with me at the Forge, hero.
May your battles be glorious.
Alright, so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go show off the new appearance it's going to give me. And then I'll read the weapon stories to you, because there are weapon stories for each of the weapons that you unlock, which is kind of neat. I remember really liking the story about the Eldraki Warblades, or the Demon Hunters. That always made me happy. I'll see him over there.
Over the long ages of my watch, rarely have I seen a warrior so in tune with a weapon. It is as if your very blood flows through the steel. Your glorious campaign in the Broken Isles has yielded victories and resources that can reforge your weapon, awakening its true potential. Here before the Forge of Odyn, you will see your ancient artifact reshaped to become mightier than ever before.
Look at that. A nice looking appearance.
Now you hold a weapon truly worthy of my Warbringer. May you continue to bring honor and glory to the Valajar.
Alright. See what colors we have for it. I like the red. Fortunately, we can't look at the breaker anymore. It's a pretty nice one. That was an axe, actually. I like that one. But yeah, this is probably the best of the ones I can get. Go to arms here real quick. Alright. The one that blood artifact for. Yeah, it is. Yay, there we go. So this is what it looks like appearance-wise right now. With the red weapon. This is its evolved form. Which is infinitely cooler. This is the one I'm gonna use. Again, I'm a big fan of red, so. But, you know, a case could be made for the purple, the green. They all look really nice, actually. There we go. Okay, and next I am going to do Fury Weapon. Okay. So there's our current weapon. I really like just the base weapon of this. They're really nice looking. The red, again, my favorite. Although the yellow is pretty sweet. Here's the arm of the Dragon Rider. Even cooler. I zoomed up. Like, even all the designs they have for this one, pretty sweet in their own way. But we're gonna go with arm of it. Alright. Go back to my protection one. Like, the DPS ones are easily way cooler looking than the tank ones, but this Mearo's a tank. That's how it goes. So, Legend of Odyn. The valor of Odyn, the deeds of Odyn throughout the ages. Odyn once said that every Vrykul warrior has a story to tell, Some are acts of valor and self-sacrifice. Others are tales of strength and conquest. I have made it my quest to seek out these stories and collect them, for I am not a warrior. But when I asked myself where to begin, I knew it had to be with Odyn. Even the greatest tale of Reichel excellence is eclipsed by his deeds. Walk the land and you will hear brave warriors recount his legends with awe. If we Reichel are to reach our true potential, it is surely by following Odyn's path. Take heed, then, of what follows. Many of these tales are from Odyn's own tongue, faithfully transcribed by the Reichel story weavers who have come before me. Great Odyn and the Fire Lord. Why does Odyn, warrior of iron and bronze, bear the brand of the Fire Lord on his chin? Old Brynjar will tell you. Every Reichel with a head still on their shoulders knows the story of mighty Odyn and the Fire Lord. There is no tale that greater shows the Keeper's unfailing strength, undying courage, and his incredible honor that of the mighty Odyn's beard. In an age before Odyn raised the Reichel to eternal glory, he and his fellow Keeper, the valiant Tyr, waged war on the elemental Lord Ragnaros. Together, they ventured to the behemoth's charred domain to destroy him, cutting down his molten army like wheat before the scythe. The Fire Lord ran in fear from the formidable champions. He thought to hide from the Keepers in his lair, but wherever he fled, Odyn and Tyr followed, laying waste to Ragnaros' realm. Inside the lair of the Fire Lord, an inferno roiled and raged, bolstered by the elemental's might. "I am empowered!" cried proud Ragnaros. "Approach me, insects, if you dare!" How arrogant the Fire Lord was, how foolish to challenge the Keepers of Azeroth. Odyn was too full of courage, too pure of heart, to be shaken by such hollow threats. The Keeper struck at the Fire Lord with the strength of 1,000 Reichel, raining down upon Ragnaros with piercing spears of light that Tyr lashed out with his silver hammer. Soon, the pitiful Fire Lord was on the verge of defeat. "Clearly Ragnaros is no match for our strength, brother," said Tyr. "I hope you will not be dismayed when I land the final blow." Odyn laughed. "Ha! I would sooner fall to the Fire Lord." And with that, the two great warriors set upon Ragnaros, each wishing to best the other. After hearing their wager, the pathetic Fire Lord called down smoke as black as night to surround his weakened form. Neither Keeper could find their foe until Tyr, wielding his shining hammer like a torch, cut through the darkness and struck Ragnaros to the core. Yet, before he could fell the Fire Lord, fresh gouts of flame erupted from Ragnaros' maw, driving Tyr back. The great Odyn was not so easily defeated. "Let the Fire Lord strike me," Odyn said. "I am the chosen of Aman'Thul. None, not even the Fire's supposed Lord, can best my might." Thus, Odyn ran at Ragnaros, engulfing himself in the inferno and smiting the Fire Lord with a single blow. Even as he fell, Ragnaros' flame washed over Odyn and set the Keeper's face ablaze with the fury of the Fire Lord. Again, mighty Odyn laughed, shaking the very heart of the world with his mirth. Where once his beard had been, there now raged a sea of molten rock and fire. "Brother," Tyr cried, "forget our wager. You have been scarred by the Fire Lord. How shall we ever heal your wounds?" "You only say such things because I have bested you, Tyr. Leave it be," Odyn declared. "Now all will know that I have defeated the Fire Lord, for his might is no match for my own." Recorded by Old Brynjar. Saga of the Valajar. Stromkar, the Warbreaker. Human history is not complete without mention of Stromkar. With this blade, a visionary warlord named Thoradin united his race into a single nation. He led his people to victory against the trolls in one of the greatest wars humankind has ever fought. He changed the destiny of the world. Stromkar's story is one of violence and bloodshed, of cunning and desperation, and ultimately of bravery and sacrifice. The early human tribes had many legends about giants who had once walked among them. These mighty beings had many names, but the most common attributed to them was Vrykul. The folktales said that the giants watched over humans as parents would watch over sons and daughters. The Vykuls taught their primitive children the ways of foraging, of masonry and smithing, and of making war. By the time Warlord Thoradin, the Vrykul of the human lands, had long since died out, what little remained of their presence included weapons that had been left behind. The humans treated these arms as sacred heirlooms and symbols of their tribes, but the blade later known as Stromkar would become much more than that. In Thoradin's hands, it would become the symbol of all humanity. From chapter 8 of The One True Human Kingdom by the historian Lore, even as the British Ammonite trolls raided and pillaged The human tribes bickered and squabbled with each other. Only warlord Thoradin and his Arathi tribe recognized the folly of their ways. If they did not unite, the moss-skinned trolls would crush humankind and desecrate the ancestral lands. So it was that Thoradin declared himself king and set out to bring the tribes to heel. Many he won to his side through marriages of his sons and daughters, others through promises of wealth and land. But some closed their ears to words of diplomacy. They spoke only the language of violence. Fortunately, Thoradin knew that language well. For weeks, Thoradin and his warriors struggled to conquer the rugged mountain people known as the Alterashi. Though the upstart king was confident he could subdue the tribe given enough time, he knew the cost would be very high. To prevent unnecessary bloodshed, he changed his tactics. Thoradin shed his battle armor and painted his chest with the Arathi tribal symbols. With only Stromkarta in hand, he marched up the mountain and challenged the Alterachi leader, Igneous, to a duel. Before long, Igneous emerged from the forest, skin dyed red with his own tribal marks, blades sharpened and hungry for death. He dwarfed Thoradin in size and strength, but the Arathi leader had other advantages. He had chosen the duel on a day when thick fog enveloped the mountains. Using the weather to his advantage, Thoradin eluded Igneous' wild swings and disarmed his bigger foe. Igneous was at Thoradin's mercy, but the Arathi leader did not strike. He plunged Stromkar deep into the damp earth and extended the hand of peace. On that day, he won the Alterachi to his side. The only human tribe powerful enough to end King Thoradin's dream of unity dwelled in the Tristful Glades. A great warrior named Lordin led the region's noble people. They would not submit to shows of force like the Alterachi. To win their loyalty, Thoradin needed to appeal to their religious beliefs. Thus, Thoradin and his personal guard made a pilgrimage to the region's shrines and sacred groves. At each site, the king performed rituals, as was the custom of Lordain and his kin. Thoradin even wore a pendant of the Silver Hand, an image held sacred by Tirisfal's humans. At the end of the pilgrimage, Thoradin met with Lordain. The king pledged that if the tribe joined him, he would adopt their mystic ways and spread them among the Arathi. To seal his promise, Thoradin ran his palm along Stromkar's edge and mixed his blood with the earth of Tirisfal. The histories recorded Thoradin as saying, "Between our people, let this be the only blood we spill." So it was. Lordain and his people bent the knee to King Thoradin. From Chapter 14 of The One True Human Kingdom, by the historian Lore, Thoradin and the other human warlords held their sword and axes sacred. Many believe that the spirits of their ancestors lived on in their weapons. With this in mind, it's quite extraordinary that Thoradin convinced all the human tribal leaders to lend him their personal blades. Arathi blacksmiths took shards of metal from each of these weapons and added them to Thoradin's greatsword. It was an act of brilliance, for it secured the eternal loyalty of the tribes. Who would ever rise up against Thoradin and risk striking the sword that contained their own ancestors? When the work was done, Thoradin renamed his sword Stromkar, the Warbreaker. With the human tribes united, Thoradin set out to find a new capital. According to one legend, he discovered his answer in a dream. In it, he saw his fathers wearing the pelt of a black wolf. He told Thoradin of an arid land southeast of Tirisfal Glades. If the king built his capital there, his people would prosper. Thoradin sought out the lands from his dream, a region known today as the Arathi Highlands. The story goes, the king spied a black wolf roaming among the barren terrain. On that spot, Thoradin used Stromkar to carve out the boundaries of his city in the dirt. Then he let his masons work. So arose Strom, mighty kingdom, our capital, the first human kingdom. Thoradin was not a king to sit idle on his throne. Just as Stromkar was not a sword to sit idle in its sheath. The Arathi military patrolled the far-flung borders of human territories, repelling Amani troll incursions. King Thoradin took part in many of these skirmishes, often at great risk to his own life. One account tells of a brutal Amani ambush that struck Thoradin's forces. The troll routed the human, separating the king from his warriors. Though he was outnumbered 10 to 1, Thoradin did not flee. He did not beg, he did not cower. No, the true Arathi would stain his honor with such craven acts. Thoradin sharpened Stromkar's edge on the skulls of his enemies and painted his steel with their blood. When the guards finally reached him, they found their king standing over 10 broken Amani corpses. From Chapter 29 of The Warring Tribes and the Rise of Erethdor, by the historian Evelina. To defeat the Amani, Erethdor and the High Elves of Quel'Thalas forged an alliance. King Thoradin marshaled over 20,000 human soldiers and launched his armies at the Trolls. The decisive battle unfolded at Alterac Fortress. the Amani host besieged the stronghold, while the humans defended the fortress from the onslaught. The High Elves smashed into the troll rearguard. Thoradin waded through the Amani warbands with the rest of his soldiers, Stromkar, hacking down troll after troll. Once the king knew his forces had worn the enemy thin, he revealed his secret weapon. 100 human magi emerged from the Alterac fortress, alongside elven sorceresses. They pooled their power and unleashed a terrible spell on the Amani. A column of fire ripped down from the heavens and blasted through the trolls. The howling torrent of flame burned the Amani to ash. Thus the trolls' wars ended, and human and elf triumphant. After the Troll Wars, Thoradin embarked on a diplomatic mission to quell the loss and secured humanity's bond of loyalty with the High Elves. The king created a military pact so that each side would help each other if the Amani ever threatened their lands again. He also carved out new territorial borders with the elves and drew up trade agreements to foster the prosperity of Arathor for generations to come. Before Thoradin left for quell the loss, the elves gave him a gift. Their greatest blacksmith and enchanters toiled over Stromkar and imbued it with extraordinary power. Thoradin marveled at the masterwork of the elves, and the new Stromkar gleamed with an otherworldly beauty. It weighed almost nothing in Thoradin's hands, and no matter how often he used it, the edge never seemed to dull. As his years wore on, a grizzled Thoradin abdicated his throne in peace. He broke tradition and kept Stromkar as his own. Though some bristled at what they considered an act of greed, Thoradin retained the blade for practical reasons. Stromkar had become a symbol of kingship. Thoradin wanted Arathor's citizens to see his bloodline as the legitimate rulers, not simply whoever wielded the throne. Free from the burden of leadership, Thoradin spent much of his time studying ancient ruins and crystal glades. He became obsessed with the origins of humankind and the tales of the giants who once walked the land. Thoradin learned to use Stromkar's enchantments to locate hidden places of power. During one of his journeys into Ithil, Thoradin and the retinue of followers entered mysterious catacombs buried beneath the earth. According to legends, none of them were ever seen again. Many strange tales exist about what befell Thoradin, but the truth is the strangest of them all. In Tristful Glades, he discovered two long-lost subterranean chambers. One belonged to the noble keeper Tyr, the other to a monstrosity known as Zakaj the Bloodthirsty, a bloodthirsty servant of the malevolent old gods. Before written history, Tyr had sacrificed himself to defeat Zakaj in a battle that shook the heart of Azeroth. Keeper's allies buried the combatants at the site of their mythic confrontation, but they sealed the tomb with magical wards to prevent anyone from disturbing what may lay inside. Unaware of the great darkness locked beneath the earth, Thoradin instructed the Magi and his retinue to break the seals. They succeeded, and in doing so, their arcane spellwork inadvertently resurrected Zakaj. As the lumbering creature tore through Thoradin's followers, the former king did not flee. He did not beg. He did not cower. No true Arathi would stain his honor with such craven acts. Thoradin sharpened Stromkar's edge one last time, burying the sword in Zakaj's skull. The blade's elven enchantments forced the horror into a deep slumber and prevented it from regenerating. It was Thoradin's last great act. At the moment of his strike, he suffered a mortal wound from Zakaj. The warrior who united humankind died that day, Stromkar stained with the blood of one final enemy. Alright. Odyn's Fury, Helya's Wrath, War Swords of the Valajar. Drink here first. Keeper Odyn believed the natural creatures of this world were too weak, too soft, and too short-lived to be trusted. You have already shown him this his folly, and none of us have any doubt that you will continue to do so. Now you will carry out Odin's prized weapons in defense of Azeroth. Go forth and further your legacy. Alright, the War Swords of the Valajar. Keeper Odyn was inspired to create an army of Titan-forged champions, the Valajar, and set them to protect Azeroth against the multitude of threats he knew it would face. But his dream was thwarted, and his Valajar were contained for thousands of years. Before Odyn was imprisoned, he crafted two blades. They were meant to aid the greatest among the Valajar. Instead, they fell into the hands of his enemies. In ancient days, Odyn oversaw the creation of the Halls of Valor, a sanctuary for the spirits of the mightiest Vikul who had given their lives in glorious battle. He had led the armies of the Pantheon against the old gods, and he knew there would always be a need for brave, fearless champions to face the forces of evil. The most talented blacksmiths among the Vrykul were asked to create weapons and armor for these fearless warriors. Keeper Odyn was awed with the skill work of one smith. His shields were light and strong, truly astonishing in the hands of a skilled fighter. But Odyn asked him to try something new. focused not only on mere defense, the keeper said, but also on the poetry of aggression. The smith heeded Odin's words and soon presented the keeper with two of the finest war swords ever made on a Vrykul forge. Odin did not merely accept them, he blessed them with his power. Odin hung these war swords in the halls of valor and let them motivate the Valajar, his champions. These will be carried into battle by only the greatest among you, he said. So go, then, prove yourself worthy. It would be many years before someone rose to the challenge. The first and only Valajar to carry these weapons into battle was named Ingvar. He was a renowned fighter when he was alive, and a legendary warrior after his death. Always aggressive, Ingvar led a raiding party to investigate a cave that seemed to be dripping with dark magic. Inside they found something terrible, a pack of creatures that had been corrupted by the old gods. When the old gods' war against the Titan had all been lost, Cthulhu quietly lashed out worldwide, seizing the minds of whatever the entity could touch. Ingvar and his comrades were frighteningly outnumbered, but they did not run. Most of the Vrykul fell in minutes, but Ingvar remained standing. Though badly wounded, he fought his way through the cave and destroyed every enemy inside. After his last breath, the Vrykul Helya sent his spirit to the Halls of Valor, where Odin welcomed him. Welcomed him with open arms. Ingvar's death had been a noble sacrifice that resulted in victory against incredible odds. Keeper Odin declared him a paragon among the Valajar, and bestowed upon him these war swords. In times of great peril, Ingvar would always be the first to lead the Valajar into fray. But all too soon, his acts of heroism came to an end. When Odin had set out to realize his vision for the Halls of Valor and the Valajar, he had needed to create Valkyr, spirits capable of preserving worthy souls for all time. Helya had not been interested in becoming a Valkyr. No one had volunteered, in fact. Odin transformed her and the others into Valkyr against their will. For many years, Helya had no chance to seek vengeance. When the opportunity arose, she took it without hesitation. Keeper Loken had fallen under the sway of madness, but he was clever. He knew Odin and his Valajar would be formidable enemies, so he approached Helya with a proposition. He would break Odin's control over her. In exchange, she would trap Odin and his champions within the Halls of Valor. Helya's anger burned deep within her, and she accepted. The plan worked almost flawlessly. Odin was entirely unprepared for Helya's rebellion, and he and nearly all his Valajar were neutralized, confined to their sanctuary in the sky. Only a few Valajar were outside of the Halls of Valor when Helya attacked. One of them was Ingvar. He took these war swords and immediately retaliated, hoping to defeat Helya and free Odin. As a Valkyr, Helya had tremendous control over the spirits of the deceased. Champion or not, Ingvar understood he was facing a fight he likely would not win. But he had these war swords, imbued with Odin's power. There was no one else to make the attempt. Ingvar found Helya and tried to strike her down, but in his hands the swords nearly overwhelmed her. But in the end she overpowered his spirit and smote him into oblivion. His swords fell to Azeroth, among the few Valajar artifacts that were not trapped within the Halls of Valor. Helya kept them as a memento of her victory over Odin. Over several millennia, Helya claimed as many souls of slain Vrykul as she could. Her ranks of Kavaldir, corrupted undead Vrykul, continued to swell. Helya began to go after the souls of not just the heroic Vrykul dead, but also the living. Any Vrykul who seemed poised to learn the truth about the conflict between Helya and Odin became a target, and she and her Kavaldir slayed them with ruthless efficiency. She started to raise her own champions, the Pelajar of Helheim, and she had them search Azeroth for her enemies. Any spirits that ended up in Helya's care suffered greatly. Helheim was torment for Vrykul war heroes, who found themselves transformed into Kavaldir even if they had been worthy of entering the Halls of Valor as Valajar. Many of these Vrykul became more dangerous in death than they had been in life. Empowered by Helya and afraid of disappointing her, they zealously obeyed her commands. Eventually, one of the Kavaldir caught Helya's attention. Big Fist Bladewind distinguished himself in battle against the Vrykul. Helya decided that he was worthy to bear these swords for all time. What better way to end the lives of Odin's faithful than with his two of his prized creations? Big Fist Bladewind used these swords to kill many Vrykul heroes over the years. Helya even committed some of her own power to the blades, just as Odin had. Not only did their lethal potential increase, but they made it easier for Helya to claim the victim's souls. In truth, it is her power that makes these weapons truly magnificent. Her power, laced with her hatred, crashes endlessly against Odin's spirit. Tension between these energies will forever permeate the blades. threatening to overwhelm whomever carries them into battle. A single lapse in the heat of combat could result in oblivion. Never forget that. Helya's champion, Bigfoot's Bladewing, carried these blades for millennia, spilling untold amounts of heroic blood. On occasion, Helya would test him to see if he was still truly worthy of her favor. She would give him unwinnable fights. Sometimes she would make him battle other exceptional Kavelder, or she would order him to raid Vrykul settlements without any help. With these weapons in hand, he never failed. In the moments before Bladewind's destruction, he asked Helya for aid. She granted it to him, pouring even more of her spirit into these weapons. A measure of that extra power remains, and it will for all eternity. These weapons were forged to assist mighty warriors who fight without fear. They turn bloodlust into power, and only one with an indomitable will can hope to control them. If they are ever wielded against Azeroth again, the world may not survive. If they are used to defend it, the world may never fall. There we go, we got one left, and that's the Scale of the Earth Warder, the one I'm wearing. These magnificent artifacts were forged from a Scale of the Earth Warder, Neltharion. As you might imagine, obtaining it came at a high cost. This sword and shield have endured countless battles wielded by a legendary Vrykul warrior and king. Thanks to your help, his spirit can rest in peace, but his armaments now pass to you. They may bring you the same victories they brought him. When Odyn created the Halls of Valor, countless Vrykul sought to prove themselves worthy of joining the ranks of the mighty Valajar. Perhaps none went to such lengths as the one who would become the king, Magnar Icebreaker. His victories in battle were beyond measure, and the strength of his deeds inspired others to seek their own heroic legacy. Many of the greatest deeds were accomplished with two legendary artifacts, the Scale of the Earth Warder and the Scale Shard. Obtaining them nearly cost Magnar his life. Their power carried him to heights even he never imagined were within reach. Magnar's comrades gave him the name Icebreaker after a successful campaign in Northrend. While hunting nests of Nerubians, Magnar discovered a way to surprise the enemy. Cracks in the glacier walls to be turned into tunnels, allowing him to dig deep into the enemy strongholds and assault them from within. As he traveled across Azeroth, Magnar saw many powerful creatures, but none enraptured him so much as Neltharion, the dragon aspect of Earth. Vrykul and dragons rarely had a reason to interact, and over the years, Magnar never failed to watch in awe when Neltharion flew overhead. When Neltharion lair close to the Vrykul home in Stormheim, Magnar began to wonder what might be waiting inside. What marvels could the Earth Warder's den hold? What power could the Vrykul obtain? His curiosity would become an obsession. Magnar Icebreaker convinced a raiding party of Vrykul warriors to accompany him into Neltharion's lair. They waited until they saw the dragon aspect leave his mountains, and then they carefully crept inside. They hoped they would find treasures or artifacts. What they found instead was a host of enemies. Though Neltharion was gone, most of his kin remained. A colossal fight broke out in the smaller side caverns beneath High Mountain, pitting the Vrykul invaders against the impossible odds. Magnar led his party in a frantic run for an exit, but before they could escape, Neltharion returned to his lair. The dragon aspect, enraged at the trespassers, unleashed a single lethal breath of fire, but there was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. In desperation, Magnar grabbed a piece of debris from the ground. It was one of Neltharion's cast-off scales. It saved Magnar's life. The blast of flame parted around the black scale. Sheer force carried Magnar out of the lair, sending him tumbling down the slopes of High Mountain. Magnar was badly wounded, but he survived. A black dragon's wrath was not easily shrugged away. It took years for Magnar to recover from his injuries. He spent the time examining the scale he had taken from Neltharion's lair. He was in awe of its resiliency. It had saved him from the fiery breath without being so much as scratched or singed. Magnar wanted the scale to be forged into a lasting armament, but no Vrykul blacksmith knew how to sculpt something so unusual. As Magnar recuperated, he began to study the art of blacksmithing. If nobody else knew how to unlock the scale's potential, he would learn to do it himself. Few understood Magnar's motivations. Most Vrykul sought a place in the Halls of Valor through glory on the battlefield, not by working at a blacksmith's forge. In time, Magnar would become known as a respectable smith in his own right. The edges of the blades were often sharper and more precise than those of his peers. They needed to be. Magnar knew he would only have one opportunity to craft Neltharion's scale into his worthy shield. When the time came, Magnar retreated into his forge and began to work. Days later, he emerged. In his grasp were two armaments unlike anything the Vrykul had ever seen. One was a shield of unimaginable endurance. The other was a sword, polished to a fine edge. It was the last time Magnar created a weapon. He would never need another. Magnar was already a respected warrior. With his new sword and shield in hands, he became a legend. Tempered by his disastrous venture into the High Mountain, he approached his campaigns with thoughtfulness and discipline, and against his newly forged power, the enemies of the Vrykul stood little chance. Other Vrykul flocked to his side with each victory, believing that Magnar's astonishing feats would usher them all into the halls of valor as Valajar, immortal champions. Long before Magnar was leading the sizable portion of the Vrykul people, only a few years after forging his armaments, he was known as King Magnar Icebreaker. Magnar Icebreaker eventually returned his sights to the region where he had made his name, Northrend. Remnants of the insectoid Nerubian armies were once again emerging from their caves, seeking to seize Ulduar and the Titan machinery within it. Against Magnar, they did not get far. The king led his people against the Nerubians, pushing them back to the entrance of Azjal Nerub itself. So thorough was the Nerubians' defeat that they ceased all aggression for millennia. No Vrykul doubted that Magnar would ascend the halls of valor upon his death. Even though Helya had sealed away Keeper Odyn in the Valajar, she wondered if Magnar's spirit would be strong enough to make the journey anyway. King Magnar Icebreaker had his sights focused firmly on the city of Stormheim, now occupied by highborn elves. The Vrykul believed that their path to a glorious afterlife with Odyn would be cleared if they once again held their ancestral home. Helya and her followers knew this ambition would prove their best opportunity to bring down Magnar, and with luck, his soul would be dragged to Helheim, not the Halls of Valor. The Vrykul launched a massive attack on Stormheim, surprising the Highborn with their ferocity. For weeks, the two sides skirmished. Magnar led the charge. The scale of the Earth Warder protected him from the Elves' arcane reprisals, and the Vrykul's assaults scored immediate victories, building enough momentum to push the Highborn out of the city entirely. The Elves' last chance to reclaim the city happened at Nightborn Pass. The Highborn rallied their forces for a final counterattack, clashing with the Vrykul in a brutal, confined brawl. In the end, the Vrykul stood victorious. The Highborn were forced to flee for their lives. They never made a claim upon Stormheim again. But it was then, at the moment of Magnar's biggest triumph, that betrayal fell upon him. Mere moments after Vrykul secured their victory over the Highborn, the servants of Helya struck. Traitors arose from within the Vrykul's ranks and slaughtered Magnar's closest confidants, and his son, Hrithnir. Amidst the chaos, more of Helya's followers, the Helajar, arrived to make sure Magnar was killed. After seeing his son butchered, Magnar was consumed with rage. He became a whirlwind of death, killing every enemy within reach. Countless Kavalder and treacherous Vrykul had fallen to his blade before. Finally, they brought him down. His people were able to rally to prevent the Helajar from claiming Stormheim. They were too late to save their king. In death, Magnar's spirit lingered. His rage stopped him from making the journey to the Halls of Valor, but it also kept his soul from Helya's grasp. For thousands upon thousands of years he burns with righteous fury, hovering between life and long past and the afterlife he deserved. But now he is free, reunited with his son in the presence of Odyn. His armaments remained on Azeroth, destined to bring about glory and honor to whoever wields them next. So there's the weapon stories. Pretty cool. I know it's a long video of me just reading, but I like the stories. They were really a good addition. Alright, the favorite of Odyn, the tales of the greatest Vrykul that ever lived. Last story. Honor in remembrance. I dreamt of heroism. I wanted to stride into battle as a warrior, blade in hand, and remove the enemies of Odyn from this world. That was not to be. I was not born the strongest or the fastest. I was not attuned to the mystical power. I could not rise to glory in war. So instead, I resolved to chronicle the actions of those who could. I began with Odyn himself, telling the stories of his greatest battles and achievements as he cleansed the Black Empire from Azeroth. Now I will record the actions of his followers. Countless Vrykul have sought Odyn's favor through the acts of heroism. They deserve to be remembered in this life and next, and if I can help them achieve immortality among the living, perhaps they will invite me to join their number in the Halls of Valor and tales for all eternity. Anonymous. There you guys have it. Like I said, I really like the story edition. It was a nice touch to the class halls. I really like when they give classes their own specific class lines. May your new weapon serve you well.
Remember, life is nothing without valor.
Off he goes. Alright guys, well thank you for viewing. I'll be back with more World of Warcraft content. See ya!